So for this printing process, you're going to need a piece of thin plastic, preferably firm, just because it makes it easier to work with the print. This is going to be your base. Then you're going to need another piece of plastic that you can roll that ink onto, and you're also going to need a roller to roll that ink out with. You're just going to need a pot. I'm using a butter pot here, just to pour the Coke over the plate. A spoon is great for burnishing. Everyone has a spoon in their kitchen. I'm also using a cheap roller today, just anyone that's clean. I have this lithographic crayon. I bought 2 for £3 online. If you don't want to buy one or you don't have one, that's fine. You can use a pen, any ballpoint pen. I've got some masking tape to make up the plate, some toilet roll just for the sake of cleaning, water with a sponge. This sponge is just a kitchen sponge that I've cut up. The other half of the sponge you can use for the oil. I use this oil, but you can use any oil really. And you want some Coke. Coke contains phosphoric acid, which is going to replace the nitric acid that you would typically use in lithography. I'm just using regular full-fat Coke today. You will also need tin foil, which I didn't show in this section, and you also need oil paint. I'm using Winsor & Newton because I had it at home, but you can use any colour oil paint. So we're going to lay some newspaper down. Newspaper is really easy clean up. I get it from my local newsagents. We're going to have our piece of plastic and we're going to take our tin foil. You'll notice the tin foil has 2 sides. One's shiny and one's matte. The matte you want to go on the outside and the shiny you want to go on the inside. Just try not to touch it too much as the oils from your skin will go onto the tin foil. So you're just going to lay it out gently and then try and pull it out so there's no wrinkles in the tin foil. And then you're just going to start folding over the edges. Just be careful with the corners of the plastic because they can be sharp. Once you've folded in all your edges and they're nice and compact, you want to tape them down. I just use regular masking tape. Masking tape holds really well. Once you have got it taped down, you can flip it over. And during this time, you don't want to touch it at all. The oils from your fingers will get all over the plate and ruin your print. So now I'm going to start getting onto my drawing. I'm going to start with my lithographic pencil. You want to be quite heavy-handed with this, you want a thick layer. Again, not to touch the plate, I put my masking tape over and use that to hold the plate down. And you just get drawing. There's no sort of right or wrong, you're just experimenting. So alternatives to these materials are pieces of soap, pieces of wax and oil pastels, anything that's oily. The idea is that water and oil doesn't mix, and you'll see soon that we use water to wash the plate, so the water and the oil will repel each other and they will move away, where the oil will sit where the lithographic pencil was. The ballpoint pen works in the exact same way as the lithographic pencil. Its ink is oily, so it will repel. I'm just using it to put in the finer details of my drawing, so it's a bit different, not all the same. Now we've finished making and drawing onto the plate, we're going to develop it. We are going to use Coke for this, so you need to grab your little tub. My plate doesn't fit fully in the tub, which is fine. If you can find a tub that will immerse it, do that. But for the sake of this, I couldn't find one. So I'm just going to pour the Coke directly on top of the plate. It won't make any difference, just make sure you're covering all areas. If you watch the Coke on the tin foil, you will see it change and become more matte as it's been corroded away. Just make sure you can turn it around and get all those corners and all the edges, and do try to remember to get the middle as well. I'm trying to bring it up to the camera to show you. You see the little bubbles corroding away at the tin foil? So you want to use the Coke while it's fizzy, otherwise this will not work as well. Now you've finished developing your plate, you can put the Coke aside. Another good reason to use newspaper is it's great for clean up. So you just fold the newspaper over your plate. I've used a roller here, I'm going to use my hands as well, just to get that excess Coke out and off of the plate. Make sure it's out from underneath the tin foil as well. Now your plate is ready to ink, so let's get ready to ink it up. First we need to put a layer of oil over our plate. I found that this doesn't dry the plate out so much. I did just spill it everywhere, but that's okay. We can just wipe the excess off. Just make sure you get it covered. And the idea is to rub off the lithographic pencil and the ballpoint pen ink from the plate. Don't worry, this isn't going to affect your print. The idea, it's done its job, it's protected it from the corrosive coke and the phosphoric acid, and now you're going to leave it bare so the ink can attach itself to that when you start rolling the ink onto the print. So just give it a nice generous layer, try and get that lithographic pencil off. Now all the pencil and ink is off, I can use my water to clean it all off again. So you can see, because my sponge is dirty, the ink from my sponge is starting to go onto the areas where the lithographic crayon was. And that just shows that your plate is ready, it's developed. If you're using a clean sponge, this won't happen. And so just rub it down, get all that excess oil off, give it a nice clean. We're now going to start rolling out our ink. So I've got my paint, my oil paint. Just remember, you can add but you can't take away. Do little bits. I added more to mine when I rolled it out. You just need to be patient. So when you're rolling, just remember to move the roller and to go across as well as up and down, just so that you spread the ink out more. If you've never had the pleasure of hearing how ink sounds when it's being rolled out, you are missing out. Search it up, it's great ASMR. Now your plate is ready to be inked up. You're just going to wet it down, make sure it's nice and wet so there's something that the oil can repel from. Don't be afraid of the water. And it just works like magic. I couldn't believe how easy it was the first time I did it. I thought the process was going to take a lot longer to get like this. And you just want to repeat rolling out the ink, wetting the plate, rolling out the ink. Do remember to roll your roller in the ink every once in a while, just to make sure that your roller is covered with ink. The more you roll the ink and wet it, the better your prints will come, and the more you use the plate, the better your prints will become. When there's enough ink on your plate, you can just do a little clean up around you. I'm just again removing the top layers of newspaper, really easy. To print today, I'm just using regular printer paper, nothing special what you'll have at home. Just place the paper flat over the print and just make sure it doesn't move, holding it down tight. I'm using a spoon to burnish. You just put 2 fingers into the spoon and wrap your hands around the rest, and just do circular and back and forth motions, just being really careful you don't bend the paper or move the paper. You can also use the roller, the clean roller, but you don't have to buy one, you can just use a spoon or your hands. So when you want to check how much it has transferred, just peel back a little bit of the print, don't peel it fully, you'll never get it back in the same place. I was happy with this one, so I just pulled it fully off. This is my first attempt. Now I'm just going to reuse the plate and make another go. So I'm just getting my oil to oil up the plate, cleaning off all that excess oil. And because I don't want to be touching it, I'm just using my fingernail to hold it down. And again, repeating the process, wetting it, rolling it out, wetting it, rolling it out. And you can already see how much better it's transferring onto the plate. So this time, I'm just again using regular paper, what you'd have at home. I'm just going to use a spoon to burnish. Just doing circular motions or back and forth motions. And just because I'm using regular paper doesn't mean you have to. You can use any sort of card, or you can even try fabric if you wanted to, nothing's stopping you. Again, just holding it down while I'm checking, wasn't quite happy with how the ink was transferring, so put it back down, rubbing again. And this is my second outcome. So the second one didn't turn out as strong as the first one, but I think that's because the first one I did use the roller. But again, burnishing and using your hands are just fine. It might take a bit longer. You can also use a rolling pin if you have one at home and you're willing to maybe get ink all over it. So now you've finished your prints, you've got to move on to the cleanup. The cleanup of the plate is really easy. You just undo the tape and rip off the tin foil, which I'm doing an amazing job of showing you right now. And you might just want to rinse it off to get off any excess coke, but otherwise than that, you're done. So now we want to move on to the piece of plastic you rolled your ink out on and the roller you used to roll it out. This is another reason why newspaper is so good for cleaning. I just go to the middle page, put my plate down and use my roller. And I just cover it in white spirit. White spirit cleans anything. You want a decent amount on there. And then all you do is just use your roller to roll it out all over the plate. Then you just want to use some tissue to soak up that extra white spirit and wipe off anything else that you can get off. I also close a newspaper over it and push it down just to get that excess off as well. And then I just use a bit of tissue soaked in white spirit to clean off the excess. Same with the roller, I just alternate rolling it out and putting white spirit on it until it's clean. These are actually the final prints. You can see the difference between the two. They are really nice. I'm quite happy with the outcome. And it wasn't really that hard to do. It took me maybe an hour in total. This, I don't know where this come from, but I just found a piece of paper I'd accidentally inked and I thought the pattern was really nice. And then this is a piece of newspaper I used to roll out my roller to clean it. So these are things you can look for as well after you've finished your process.